It's your girl Shakira, and today I'm going to be talking to you about La Santa Muerte, the beautiful, blessed Holy Lady of Death. And I'm going to talk more so about how you can know if La Santa Muerte is coming to you, a little bit about my experience, not too much on it though, because I just kind of want to talk more about this spirit. Um, or this force. I would like to say that she's more so of a force, because she's very strong, very powerful, and she's also a very lovely force to work with. However, I will tell you, she is not for beginners. She is definitely a more advanced spirit. Just from personal experience and also from other devotees, she's also one of those spirits where it's a commitment. So once you start working with her, you cannot stop. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm not going to talk too much about the history of La Santa Muerte. I will dive more deeper into a video as well as her different robe colors. So the more videos that come out, the more I will talk more about La Santa Muerte, her robe colors, more about the spirit. But I'm gonna just do kind of like an introduction, and I'm also gonna talk more about her, just in general, about how you would know that she's coming to you, or how and why you should work with her. So, with La Santa Muerte, it's very important that you actually do a lot of research before you work with her. She's not the kind of force that you just want to jump into working with them, because they are very strong. They also have a lot of different personifications or different aspects to them. So you can just kind of like fuck around and find out if you end up like coming into contact with the wrong one. Um, so I can just say, like, from my experience, it didn't initially start as a great experience with La Santa Muerte. I knew she was coming to me because I kept having dreams about her. And then I got a reading, from a necromancer, and they basically told me a little bit more about the spirit, and kind of just confirmed everything that was going on. But what I'll say is this spirit has been around for a while, and I just had no idea. I've always had an affinity to skulls. I've always had an affinity to the dark side. I've always had some kind of interest in working with anything that has to do with the dead. Not just because I'm a necromancer, but it's more so of just something I've always been attracted to. Working with this spirit has helped me immensely, because I will say her personality is very different in compared to the other spirits that I've worked with, or other spirits that I'm familiar with, or that I've interacted with in other people's court, because she's so complex. This is such a complex spirit. I can't even begin to sit here and explain every single thing in a video, which is why I'm just going to continue to make more just to explain experiences. What I will say is, if you are feeling called to her and you need resources and you want to understand more about her, there's so many other devotees that I've learned from myself, just by interacting or just by talking to them or watching their content. For example, Mysterious Leroy is a very good Santa Muerte devotee resource that you can go to. I also started by, buying the Holy Death Bible, because it let me know a little bit more about the history, about some of the robe colors, especially rituals that work with Santa Muerte very well, because she has her own herbs. You have to consecrate her. It's a lot once you start like bringing in the spirit. I've also visited like her chapel. She has chapels in Mexico, but she also has one in New Orleans. I've This spirit is just very loved by many all around the world. But let's get a little bit more deeper into it, because I don't want it to be just about, it. She's just so great. I just have so much great things to say about her. I just want to get into it more so about how you know La Santa Muerte is around you. So my first known interaction with La Santa Muerte would have to be in dreams. I was having dreams. So I've always, like I said, had an affinity to like skulls. Like, I love skulls. I collect them. So I have like 1,000 skulls in my house. I have like tattoos of skulls. So I used to wear them when I was younger, when I went through like my little emo phase or whatever the case is. But I've always been attracted to like skeletons and skulls and stuff. But I remember I was having a dream of somebody watching me. And I just remembered seeing a red robe, and this was years ago. It was a skull or a skeleton person in a red robe, and they were very tall, right? The way they projected themselves was very tall. And I remember like seeing them, but I wasn't scared. And I used to have a bunch of plants in my room, and this being was standing in between the plants. And whoever it felt like, they didn't come off extremely feminine. They didn't come off extremely masculine. They just felt like a force. That's the only way I can explain it. In a red robe, and I could just see the white skeleton face, and it was a skull, right? It wasn't like a face painted. It was a actual skeleton, and they were standing there just staring at me. And then they would come in dreams. And I think this spirit is very funny because they have their own personality, right? The different like colors and robes have their own personality. I've seen them project themselves in a dream before as like a little chibi, like a little tiny chibi, and it was so funny. Like they were wearing like the red robe, and they were just a tiny little chibi. But I've seen this spirit majority of the time in dreams. However, I've also seen them in meditations as well. And there's times where even before, like I even worked with the spirit, this skeleton spirit will keep coming to me in meditations. And at first I didn't know who La Santa Muerte is. I didn't even know this was a whole cult. I didn't know this was a whole ordeal. I did not know that this spirit was actually venerated. I didn't become familiar with this spirit until later, way later on. So I would have dreams and I would have visions, and in meditation I would have this skeleton come to me, but it wouldn't speak. It wouldn't say anything to me. Nothing. It was just silence. And I didn't feel scared. I just, I don't know what I thought of it. I just thought this was a cool skeleton person coming to me, but I didn't know what to do with this information. So I just kind of left it at that. But you will typically see her come in dreams. Visions, she'll usually come around witching hour, right? Spirits tend to come to you during witching hour because the veil is very thin at that time, so they're easily able to communicate with you. La Santa Muerte is the angel of death, so people like to associate her with something negative, but she's not. She is called upon, at the end of time to take you to where you need to go to ascend. So you can do things to have like a negative experience with this spirit, but you can also have a lot of positive experiences with this spirit. It just depends on how you communicate with this spirit and how you're working with this spirit. But 9 times out of 10, she doesn't do anything that's harmful. I don't know why I felt like I needed to say that, but I just felt like I needed to say that. She will not do anything harmful to you from you interacting with her, if that makes any sense. And if you choose not to work with her, you don't have to. She's not, like other spirits where if they're in your court, you have to work with them or they're not going to leave you alone. She's the kind of spirit, if you say no, she understands and she'll back off. But she usually comes to you at a time that you'll need her. She'll come to you at a time where you're supposed to work. You're chosen, right? She chose you to work with her. But she is one of those spirits where you have to like do your research and your homework before you do. So she'll come in dreams. She'll come in meditation. Another thing that was very funny, how I knew who she was, or started to know more about her, was because I had a friend who told me like, hey, I have a bunch of like tarot cards that I don't even use. I have like a whole bunch of them. Can I just mail them to you? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I love decks. I have like a whole bookshelf full of decks. So I'm like, yeah, you can send me a deck. And they sent me a whole box full of decks. And when I got it, I pulled out the deck, and the deck was the Tarot de la Santa Muerte. So it was literally her own deck. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I've seen this skeleton lady before, and I'm pulling the cards out and looking through it. And I'm looking more into La Santa Muerte and who she is and whatever the case is. And then I started to understand more. But at that time, I did not work with her. Because a lot of the research that I've read and a lot of other devotees will tell you there's a reason why you're a devotee. There's a word for it for a reason, because you do have to commit yourself to her. You have to commit yourself to this spirit. It's just like somebody would commit themselves to Jesus Christ or to God. You're committing yourself to that spirit, to serve that spirit and to understand that spirit and to build a bond and a connection and a relationship. Just like people go to church, Santa Muerte has her own church. Just like people go to church to praise the word of God and to, live a blessed life and to be a good person. It's the same with Santa Muerte. You choose to devote yourself to her so that she can protect you, so that she can heal you, so she can love you. And there's times and stories that I've heard of Santa Muerte, you know, delivering immense healing and immense, you know, like healing and love and prosperity and abundance, or just saving people from near death experiences. There's times where I was going through stuff, and when I called on La Santa Muerte, she performed miracles that I can't even explain. I'm going to be honest, some of the stuff, I'll talk about it later on, but I can't even explain what she did. But I knew it was her. So, Holy Blessed Lady of Death. She usually will start to come to you. You'll see a lot of skulls and skeletons, and there's times where, like, I don't live in a like area predominantly where you will see a lot of like Santa Muerte devotees, I'll say. When I went to New Orleans, it was everywhere. Like Santissima was everywhere. You can go into the store, you go anywhere, you're gonna see a little Blessed Holy Lady of Death. You're gonna find her every robe color. You're gonna find that everywhere. But here where I live in PA, they don't have that kind of stuff. So I would be driving, and like the car in front of me would have like, you know, a skeletal person, you know, praying, and hers is typically the one with the prayers and the rosary and a scythe. I'm also going to go a little bit more into explanation in the next video about what certain things mean, because if you can look at La Santa Muerte, you know, she has stuff that represents exactly who she is, and like her powers, right? And the owl is being one of her powers. The scythe is one of her powers. The hourglass, the world. There's so many different manifestations as well of La Santissima that you can work with to be able to assist you with whatever difficulties you're facing through, right? Her scythe is for protection. The owl is for wisdom. The world is to understand that you have the world in your hands and that you have control. The scale is all about justice and balance. So I think I don't even need to make a video because I just explained what it is. But this spirit, you will know because she will start to present herself anywhere that you go. I'm talking about anywhere. Like I said, I would see it on the back of people's cars. And randomly, I would like go somewhere. I remember one time I went out to eat, and there was just like this gigantic skeleton that somebody like dressed up as like a person or whatever the case is and made it look real feminine. And I was just, oh, that's funny. That reminds me of her. And this is like not a time where it was like Halloween or anything, but you will see stuff that represents La Santa Muerte. And then you'll see it excessively. You'll see owls. You'll see spiders is another symbolism of her that I've noticed so many devotees say, not just me from what I've noticed, but so many of them will say that they've seen spiders like after they pray to her or by her altar. And even last night I did like a smoke cleanse for her, and as soon as I was finished the smoke cleanse, I went to go use the bathroom, and something told me to look up, and I look up and there's a giant spider there. But she will bring spiders around you to let you know that she's present, right? Spiders are very wise creatures, very old creatures, very patient creatures. So I feel like that's also why she associates herself with, you know, also the divine feminine. Spiders are very important symbolism and aspect of femininity and wisdom. When you think about the stories of Grandmother Spider, that is also a representation as well of just an aspect of La Santa Muerte. So you might also see a lot of spiders. Spiders, owls, those are basically majority of what I will see when connecting with her. And like I said, she'll come in your dreams. You'll see her in meditations and visions. She'll also come like through people. There's even, and it's so funny, she's just so good at controlling things. There's times where I remember even before I knew who she was, like, and I said, I'm like, if I need to work with you, if I'm supposed to work with you, like, give me a sign. And then it will be like a flood of videos that are coming on TikTok or YouTube that are telling me more information about her. But yeah, that's majority of like how you can know Santa Muerte is coming to you. But I do give a disclaimer. Like I said, she's one of those spirits that once you start working in, you're pretty much locked in, and that's it. Doesn't mean you can't work with other spirits, because I definitely have other spirits who do, you know, work with Santa Muerte, or they can do certain things with Santa Muerte. Like some of my voodoo spirits will like smoke with her because she smokes cigarettes. So they will smoke with her and they will be around her. But the reason why I'm saying that is because she definitely will take the front center stage of everything you do. My altar started out a tiny little bookshelf with one tiny little statue, and now it's overflowed with so many Santissima statues and gifts and offerings and stuff to her. So it is one of those things where you have to do a lot of research and understand it's a commitment and it's a pact. Although you're not making a blood pact with her, which that is a thing that you can do, I do not recommend that unless you know like this is it and you were this is it and this is for life or whatever the case is. But I do love my beautiful flaquita, but I will definitely tell you, do your research before you start working with her. And then pretty soon we'll start getting into the different coat colors. This one is actually Mitecuatica. So that's more of the aspect, the closest one that is to her Mexica form of Mitecuatica, which is the Lady of the Dead, of the ruler of the dead. But the feminine aspect, because you also have a masculine aspect as well, but she's the feminine. There's also La San Muerte, which is the masculine form of Santa Muerte, who is the masculine form of the ruler of the underworld of Miteclan. But just to let you know, this is just the introductory of who she is, how you might know she's coming to you, why you might want to work with her. Just because if she is coming to you, there's a reason why she chose you, and she can perform miracles. We'll talk about that in more videos to come, but I just want to let y'all know how much I adore you and appreciate you, and you will hear from me soon.